Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about the cancellation of cancel culture. And we're seeing a lot of people walk it back after years and years and years of attacking fans and calling them Nazis and chuds and alt-right and whatever, and all kinds of online digital lynch mobs. We're seeing several people now who actually participated in said lynch mobs saying, hey, maybe we shouldn't do that anymore. Don't cancel me, bro.
Yeah, because they're probably coming after them.
They're coming for them.
Yeah. What they believe.
So we're going to talk about this pretty interesting stuff. We're going to talk about Brianna Woo. And I got to give a hat tip to Black Sage D, who actually sent this link over. Brianna Woo is having a bit of an existential crisis right now because Brianna's like, well, maybe these lynch mobs aren't so good. Maybe we're actually pushing people further right by, hitting them over the head with our far left ideology. If
only people had told them.
If only.
Over and over again that was what was going on.
Yeah, if only people, yeah, and then we also have this other article that's making the rounds now in the tabletop scene. And now this one, they actually took it down, which is weird, but it's very, very long. But
is that why I couldn't load it?
Yeah, it was actually removed because I think there was a lot of backlash. Now, this thing has a whole bunch of inside baseball, but when, I told you before that I thought the tabletop scene was more toxic than the comic book scene.
I agree.
When it comes to cancel culture, just based on what we've seen with our limited experience.
I think it's worse than cartoons in that sense.
It's horrible. And this person, Dr. Cleo Bell Wiseman, said they were part of the scene and has inside baseball on a lot of stuff going on, and it's so much worse than people think. It's actually pretty atrocious.
It actually sounds about right from what you were telling me.
Yeah, because they drag Gen Con into it. They drag the guy who was in charge of
I was like,
5e. Gen Con, it's very, very easy to get banned from. But basically, you're not allowed to run afoul of the Mean Girls. And they bring up, middle school bullying and those tactics.
It sounds like everything we've been saying, down to the whole cliques and the high school mentality and all that. I could have written this myself, it sounds like.
Yeah, it goes on. I mean, I'm obviously not going to read the whole thing. We'll pick a couple of parts here and there, but it just seems like, now whether or not it's real, whether or not people actually felt this way, but it seems like people are starting to snap back into
real to me
reality. And also we're seeing this in comics too. And the comic book scene, the people that were outed as being part of the Whisper Network are being awfully quiet. They're not really saying a whole lot. I guarantee you they're scheming in the background. I guarantee you they're still scheming, but at least publicly, they're not saying dumb shit because
there's receipts.
There are receipts, and the jobs are getting harder to come by, right? So, if the comic book industry is contracting and you're saying dumb shit that people don't want to be associated with, then you're probably not going to get a phone call. If it's between you and somebody else who will keep their damn mouth shut and just do their job and do it to the best of their ability, they're going to pick the person who's going to keep their damn mouth shut. So anyway, let's talk about this. The chickens are coming home to roost, is what I'm saying. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, get woohoo if you do.
Woohoo.
Speaking of woos, we're going to talk about Brianna Woo.
See what you did there.
I see what I did there. Brianna Woo, very notable Gamergate adjacent personality, has participated.
Gamergate that we weren't involved in, but we could get
the Gamergate we weren't involved in, has participated, as I understand it, again, because we weren't involved in Gamergate, but this person has participated in campaigns to get people canceled, is now saying cancel culture maybe is not such a good thing.
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, you can read it.
Okay, ready, guys? I don't think I'm the only progressive with a ton of resentment built up over a decade at the fringe online left. No, you're not, because Kneon and I always leaned left, and for some reason we're considered far, far right because we, the same kind of thing.
I don't get it. Like, we have not changed. My politics are the same as they were in like the mid 90s.
Yep. It's such a cancerous set of tactics. Oh my God. No shit. Waves of anonymous accounts acting like cops, morally loaded language out of proportion to any issue at hand, taking statements out of context and twisting them in dishonest ways for a dunk, an inability to provide credible sources for extraordinary claims, and a total disdain for nuance.
What? Why are you speaking sense?
What's down is up. And always a ravenous appetite to hurt people on our own side.
What? Where's Brianna Woo?
They just know.
Where is Brianna Woo?
Here's the thing, Brianna. Here's what they do. You don't like what they like, or you disagree with them on something political, cartoon, whatever. Doesn't matter what the truth is about where you lie politically or whatever. They are just going to dehumanize you in any way possible, so they feel better about being whatever tool bag they're going to be to you, because they cannot understand that you can be the same as them and not agree with them.
That actually comes up in the DnD manifesto.
It's almost like we know what we're talking about.
That it is about basically feeling like you belong and hurting other people because you yourself are hurting, or you're preemptively trying to hurt people, so you're part of the in-group.
Right.
Yeah. Like middle school.
And yeah, pretty much. And the reputation of progressives has been destroyed accordingly. We're deeply unpopular in the party. We're seen as harassing assholes online, the way we used to critique gamers for behaving, by the way.
What?
I know.
What?
The culture on Twitch and YouTube is constantly documenting the hypocrisy and insanity, and it's well-deserved.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Welcome to the party, Brianna.
We don't have much. We got
cookies and spite.
We don't have cookies anymore. We can't have them because
we had cookies, but apparently that was a problem.
Yeah.
A decade ago, when we were more associated with policies like Medicare for all, there was a window for us to become the next evolution of the party, and it was utterly squandered.
Yes, the insanity of the far left has pushed a lot of people that were more moderate further right. Now, I don't think I've moved further right.
We've always leaned, here's the thing. We've always stayed the same, but according to modern day sensibilities, we've gone to the right, even though we've never changed anything.
The people that call Obama a conservative,
right?
Call us conservatives because now we look like conservatives because the Overton window, as they call it, has moved so far. That's like Joe Rogan. He was going off on Twitter, and he was like, I'm the same person I've always been. It's just that, like, I'm definitely more left than right, and I was against cancel culture from the far right. But
you're still against cancel culture, just now that's coming from the opposite side.
It's still religion. It's still religion. It doesn't matter.
It's like a cult, yes.
Right. I mean, because I've called out a lot of right wingers, trying to cancel this or cancel that because it offends their moral sensibilities. It's the same thing.
Extremism in any way is cult-like.
Yes.
I'll always be a progressive because I think the policies are on the right, or the right ones by the left. But it's time to admit that online progressives are too destructive to ever be a meaningful political force in America.
Oh, my God.
Except in the sense we are driving normal people to the arms of the right.
In the arms of an angel. My God.
Here's the thing. We've been telling you guys this. I mean, by them, like Brianna Woo and company. We have been telling you that your extremism.
Stop being nuts. Stop being nuts.
Basically it's having the opposite effect. Part
Holy
2.
Shit. Okay.
So telling that they responded with the very cancerous behavior that's making the overwhelming majority of people think they're assholes. If your only response to criticism is to harass, insult, and personally attack, it's because you can't defend your ideas. And why we do what we do is usually in a response to people who are just harassing people because they don't agree with them on some point.
Well, see what she said before. She said that there's so much online documentation. Basically, the most insane members members, but the most insane voices that would identify as being progressive or on the left or the far left or whatever, the ones that are being documented and called out, and they are laughably ridiculous.
Well, it doesn't matter how left you go. You will fail the test at some point.
Yes.
And that's that purity test that Sarah Silverman was talking about.
Yeah.
The only way to avoid being attacked by your own side is to take an ever more insane set of policy positions. Many have ridden this train to the point they have left any kind of reality you can sell to the mass public.
What?
Brianna's making some sense.
Brianna wanted to run for office or try to run for office, I think. I think what's going on, and I saw this with the guy from the Young Turks, the one that looks like Fred Flintstone. I don't know. Anyway, he was saying the same thing. He was basically like, we lost the plot. Where did we lose the plot? And one of the Turks, the gal on there, and again, I don't watch them. I don't know. I don't watch talking heads. They bore me for the most part. But apparently she noped out because she said some things that were very mild, and she got dogpiled, eaten by her own supporters.
It's just like it keeps pushing and pushing and pushing, and it was like this just one skit. It was funny. Like these people were asking this guy to take a picture of them together, and he's like, "Okay, well, when I say, I'll say, say cheese, I'll take the shot. Well, I'm lactose intolerant. That's insulting. And then he's like, okay, well, do this. That's insulting too. Well, do that. I'll count backwards, 3, 2, 1. Well, that's mean to dyslexic people. And he ends up just like, taking a selfie with a group selfie and throwing the camera at him because he gets tired of, no matter what you did. They were like, oh, you're just a hateful bigot. And it's like that. It's like you get ridiculous. It's more and more ridiculous because you think you're going to get high fives for being more and more ridiculous. And it's a lot of younger people, I think, especially.
Yeah, and that comes up again. We'll get that DnD article. Comes up in that being like people under 25. But what happens is then people deliberately go, they're like, if I'm going to be a bad guy, then let me be the best bad guy I can be. And I'm going to deliberately trigger these people because they're going to scream and yell anyway. So I've been holding back. I might as well just fucking say what I fucking think because they're going to cancel me anyway.
Then they have a thing that she had supposedly said when she was 20, her parents handed her $200,000 to start an animation business and that. I can't imagine why you and the working class left clash. Look, I'm working class. There's a lot of working class right. There's a lot of working class people. I don't, that's ridiculous thing to make. I mean, yeah, okay, she had all this money handed to her, so obviously her parents have money. So I get your point. But a lot of what she's saying makes sense, even if you're a working class person.
Yeah, so this is interesting. They bring up Fetterman. No, we're not trying to get too political on this, but I want to, because Fetterman's from our, should I say our neck of the woods? I don't know, given the
neck.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah. I am familiar with Fetterman. I was familiar with Fetterman before he ran for office, before he became a senator, because he was responsible for turning he took responsibility for turning his town around. But the thing is that like Western Pennsylvania liberals are not like liberals in like Portland or Brooklyn or whatever. Most of them are very working class. And so stuff Fetterman's saying is actually stuff that Democrats or former Democrats like myself would say. So, what I'm saying, like it's there is a difference even on the left in how, and even, depending on where you're at in the country, you have people that are just like on the right. You have people that are, in the middle, kind of lean left, lean right. You have people that are like your typical left winger. Then you've got your extreme far left. The problem we're having is these extreme far left voices.
Well, here's the thing. It used to be once upon a time that, there was always a clash politically between parties.
Oh, always.
But you usually tried to still work towards some kind of compromise, work towards people. Now it's like there is no compromise. It's our way or the highway. As soon as one gets elected, they're campaigning for the next election. They're not fixing anything. They're not doing what their jobs are. They're too busy fighting amongst themselves about policies, about far extremism and trying to one up each other on how, high fives they could get for, what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, we need to go back to the middle. We need to go back to, you can lean left, you can lean right, you can be whatever, but they need to be working towards actually fixing problems instead of spending all their time fighting amongst themselves, trying to get more outraged by something else ridiculously stupid and, causing more division than they are causing unity.
Yeah, so this is interesting. Cyberal here on Twitter says, are you genuinely growing up and reinventing yourself or trying to make people forget you were the incarnation of the problem you describe and one of the inventors of cancel culture?
That's true.
That as I understand. Now, again, we were not involved in Gamergate.
Yeah, but it doesn't take much to look into what happened.
Right, but you look up Brianna Woo and their name comes up a lot. Let me just put it that way. Sarkeesian and Woo come up a lot in regards to that. So let's move on to this again. Dropping about the same time. This is from Dr. Cleo Bell Weisman. It has been taken down. It's been discussed in some RPG forums. There's a lot of inside baseball here, which I am not going to pretend that I understand because there are a lot of names and personalities that I am not familiar with in the indie tabletop space. That being said, we have been covering Dungeons and Dragons and its current audience for the last couple of years now because I stepped in. I did not realize that the audience had changed as much as it had since I played back in the 80s and 90s, and I just wanted to get my kids into tabletop, and I made the mistake of being critical of WotC and being critical of like, why is it that the orcs are racist now and the dark elves are racist and everything's racist and we have to what is that? And then just freaking God, we got dogpiled. And we've seen it happen time and time again. Any infraction in this community, this loving community, any infraction and you were dragged on social media, you were banned from Gen Con. God forbid you're banned from Gen Con. And it doesn't take much to get banned from Gen Con. They've been trying to cancel Gary Gygax, the creator.
They wouldn't even say his name right.
Yeah, Gygax or something like that. That the Gen Con people on the Gen Con YouTube channel couldn't even pronounce Gary Gygax because they're not familiar enough with him. The guy who literally made Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, he's problematic, so he's not worth.
He's probably they don't like him, and they've been trying to erase him.
And they look exactly how you think they look.
Pretty much, and you don't want to be like that, right? You don't want to be like that, but there is definitely a type that, it's like they're shorthand, like visual shorthand. You're like, okay.
Well, they do it on purpose because that's what they think they need to
That's
look
how they
like.
identify each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm not going to go into this whole thing. Let's just say that this person who is a doctor, who is a psychologist, and
she's queer.
Yeah, queer. Built her credentials, and she basically said that they call it about ringing the bell, which is basically ringing the bell, which is like targeting somebody. And you target somebody, and then everybody, when the bell gets rung, you have to dogpile that person if you want to stay in the group. And everybody's afraid of when the bell rings, like who's going to get targeted, right? But they're talking about how originally there was pushback against the people that were like the 4chan trolls and the chuds and whatever that were trying to gatekeep people out of it. And she does say in here that at some point in time it flip-flopped, and the people that were trying to just, make a place for themselves in gaming became the bullies.
Well, I think that's what's going on. I think, and I'm not going to say it became, because I think, a lot of times a lot of these fandoms were very welcome, and they always were welcoming for years until certain groups came in, and then Gate kept it, and then it's like, in the name of what everybody should be welcome when everybody was previously.
Yeah.
They're, saying that now only people like them are welcome. And it's like, but that's what you're doing is exactly what you claimed was done to you when it really wasn't, but you are actually perpetuating it.
So they just talk about how toxic it is. She interviewed a whole bunch of indie game developers, and the italicized quotes are things that these people have said. This person said there's, this is a Brian Yaksha, an RPG writer and harasser whose credits include contributions to Pathfinder and their own indie games. It said there's a lot of vitriol in this GD room, to the point that, like, if I were a much heavier person, there's a lot of effing industrial blackmail material from it, because most of the people, all they do is join in and shit talk other people I've worked with. And it's just like, a toxic environment. I definitely contributed to that. Then he hastens to add, though, never to the level of their shit. They never think they're the bad guys.
I started it, but I'm not as bad as them. My shit doesn't stink.
Mine doesn't stink. This other person, that Fiona Maeve Geist, as an editor and writer on projects including a multi-million-dollar Kickstarter for Mothership, said, look, this is what I was talking about before. Look, she says, most of these people are used to fucking hate mobbing. Like, I'm not trying to say it's right. I'm just saying, if you're under 25, your primary experience of the internet has been akin to a schoolyard fight in which someone rings a bell, and if you're part of that, you run over here. Basically, they ring the dinner bell. It's kind of like, I call it, with journos, I call it the chum bucket, where basically journo A gets a tweet and creates an article about it, and then journo B writes an article about their article, and then also tweets about it. And
they're also on Slack together.
Yeah, they're on Slack together, so it's all coordinated. And then like journos C and D, they retweet this stuff, and then they eventually, a couple days later, come out with an article with their own take on it. And this is how people get canceled. This is how they do it. They coordinate together. They pick a target, and it might only be somebody, like 2 or 3 people that have a grievance. And it might even be a minor grievance, but look at Troy Levitt with Hogwarts Legacy. The grievance was, this game should not exist because we don't like J.K. Rowling. Okay, let's find a critical node. Oh, that would be the lead developer. Okay, let's pour through his social media history and find videos we didn't like, and that's what we're going to use, and then we're all going to dogpile on this guy. And it's the same tactics that they use in tabletop gaming.
Wait, this is interesting. They're talking about being candid about bullying colleagues to keep them in line.
Yes.
And they're talking about an argument with a former friend, an experimental incline at the one game place. And they're talking about, like, it sounds like they're deliberately trying to tank them to get their business for pennies on the dollar. Yeah.
So this whole thing is insane. They talk about resources. They said this other person, they said another harasser, B, so they won't say their name, who works in the same cluster of companies as Geist, that was the previous person we talked about, relates to the problems common to marginalized communities. Conflict is common because, like, right on some level, and we don't all like admitting to this, a lot of our ideological conflicts are over resources. It's all about the money, okay? All of it. They say it's...
They're basically trying to run somebody else out of business by making claims against them so they get the money. It's like that analogy, like the soap opera. If I kill the girlfriend, he'll love me.
Yeah. We don't like talking about it because that's really the reason a lot of us think that certain people are bad is just that they make money and we think it should be in our pocket. It's not the most noble reason. This is comics too. Comics, the same thing. People become a big target when they make a lot of money and they post online and they get dogpiled. I saw Boom get dogpiled on Kickstarter for making too much money because Keanu Reeves didn't need to make money. But they did the Berserker book, right?
Yeah, because they were under the impression if they didn't put it on Kickstarter, then people were going to back their books, which they weren't going to back anyway. But I would argue that you have a better chance of getting seen because they're all coming to Kickstarter to back him. They might see yours and back it where they might never have known about yours to begin with.
Yeah, so what you're saying is they try to collude to get people canceled, thinking that if they get these people canceled, they're going to make more money. They're going to make more money at this, right? Because there's not a whole lot of money to go around in any kind of like geek space, but it's usually like, it's like a 95-5 rule. Like you have 5% of people are doing okay. They're doing good. They're making a living at it. And then you have the other 95% that are doing it, but they're not making any real money at it. They can't make a living at it. So clearly...
So instead of getting better, you just
getting better, right? Instead, you try to cancel the 5%. And we've seen this with lots of crowdfunders, with the Comicsgate situation, with the Eric July situation. It's always about the money. Always.
That might work once or twice, but then as soon as people realize that your stuff sucks, that's not going to keep working.
Yeah. They said there's a lesson here. Don't trust anybody because they're all out to get you, basically, which is fucking horrible. You know, this person here said that we're all determined to be the left that eats itself, which is very similar to what Brianna Woo was talking about. I mean, you go into the Viper's Den, all these people, you know, they've got a knife behind their back. And this is why they get you in these little groups. And this is why they get you on their Discords. And they get you in their DMs. And the reason they want you in their DMs is so they've got blackmail material on you. So if you don't toe the line...
Well, that's why, like, you know, Gen Con and stuff, it's like these people are holding court, and to them, it's like a power trip. Because I can decide who gets to come and who doesn't get to be in here. They don't want in here because they want to make money. We're controlling who has the door to get in. It's a power trip. It's a lot of it's power trip.
But look at this. This is like, they talk about these two developers, and they said that they should be helping each other, and it should be like an adult space to talk about. They said morally, politically, and even emotionally, these two game designers have almost everything in common.
We see this so much with us. There's people out there that hate us so much. Comics, toys, cartoons, everything. They hate us so much, but if you take away whatever they're mad at us about, we actually would get along really, really well.
Oh, absolutely.
But you're too busy hating on us about one thing that you think you're mad because we're bigger than you, or even a lot of times we're not that big, or whatever, and you're mad, and then so because of it, you just keep doubling down on this anger, and it's like normally we'd get along fine.
So she says there are no spaces in the RPG community with rules that encourage them to talk to each other like healthy adults, or with social norms that suggest they should. They see the stakes as too high to back down, and both of them got attention from retweets and attacking other designers. That's how the game is played. Okay, so what she's saying is, and this is the same with comics, it's the same with, you get attention for yourself by attacking other people in your space. And then, you know, that's how, but the thing is that when you do that, you've got other people waiting to take you down too.
It doesn't end. Like, where's
it never ends.
Like, you can never, please, it's just like, what do you say? You just wait till everybody eats you. You're good until they come for you.
Yeah, they're talking about Mike Merles, and that was a whole debacle. He's the guy who designed 5e, and that's a whole thing. But they said, yeah, you have to learn the rules. There's several, I mean, she's got several examples. I mean, this thing just goes on and on and on. But talking about DnD and Gen Con and how Gen Con is in on it. People that are involved in Gen Con are in on this shit, and they actually encourage it. I think Matt Mercer came up and Critical Role came up. Now, again, I can't verify this. We actually did meet Matt Mercer before, and he was a nice guy. He seemed like a really nice guy.
But that was back before all this.
That was before Critical Role.
Culture has, taken over too.
And I'm going to be honest. Like, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to say it. If you are a middle-aged white man in this space,
you better know your place.
You better know your place.
You better publicly admit that's your place.
Absolutely. Because you're going to be one of the first ones to get knifed in the back.
But they always come for you. Just come for you last.
That is exactly it. They always eat you. They always eat you. Talking about a lawsuit this guy named Zach Smith had. But again, this is inside baseball. I don't know specifically what went down, but apparently he sued for defamation and won repeatedly. But Yeah, this is interesting. It's striking. This is a pull quote. It's striking that legally and morally, the most powerful men in the RPG industry are guilty of the same offenses we associate with anonymous 15-year-olds on 4chan, dogpiling strangers because peer pressure told them to.
It's fear. It's all about fear. The whole thing is fear perpetuating itself. We talked about this for years since we first started this. Everybody's so afraid of getting canceled that they join in on the hate mobs to put fear into somebody else because it's all about controlling with fear.
They're talking about, like, even if you're older, if you're a 60-year-old, when they ring that bell and somebody's getting canceled, you better come run. We saw this in comics. We saw it
if you don't,
firsthand.
they're going to come after you.
We're like, why is like Pat Zurcher, who's a guy, he did Batman and stuff like, why are guys like Pat Zurcher and Larry Hama and these guys that have had, long storied careers that are frankly too old for this shit? Why are they getting involved in this idiotic slap fight, the social media drama? Because if they don't, they're not one of the good guys. They don't get any more work. They will be ostracized. It doesn't matter what they've done in the past. It doesn't matter how amazing their careers were or what they've contributed. If they don't dogpile the people that they are told to dogpile, they're out of the group. They get kicked out of the group and they're not going to work anymore. They won't be invited to conventions. We've seen it happen. We've seen people. I'm not even talking people that have strong political beliefs. I'm just talking people that didn't go along with the cancellation. We've seen people get ostracized. Well, I'm not the right kind of person anymore. I'm not part of the group. And that is exactly how it works. And it works that way in comics too. It's like, you got to be part of that group. And if you're not part of that group, you are out. And you got to do what you got to do to stay in. And I don't feel bad for people that are living in fear of their peers, because they're awful people. You can get out. You can escape. You can leave. You can, but you're so afraid that you're not going to get to do what you want to do for a living, but the reality is you can go out there and you can break away from these people and you can kind of carve out a niche for yourself. You don't have to listen to them, but they do, because they're so damn afraid. And I think they don't have enough confidence in themselves to go out there and break away. It just goes, that just goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. But yeah. We're seeing a lot of this now, aren't we? Mm-hmm. People walking it back. And then they're going to pretend that they didn't participate in the cancel culture. They're going to pretend that they were never okay with it, but they couldn't say anything. They couldn't say anything when their friends were getting dragged because, I had to do, for my family, I had to, which is fine. I understand you got a family or whatever, but like Geeky was saying, they're going to eat you. They're just going to eat you last, but they're absolutely positively going to eat you.
I just think it's all ironic because it's everything we've been saying.
Oh, yeah.
Since like the very beginning we started doing these, because we started out talking about comics and how, it was getting so ridiculous. And this is everything we've been saying. And
it started about 2013, 2014. That's about when it started. You go through this article and they're like, yeah, it's been about 10 years. About 10 years of this bullshit. And it's ending, I think, because it has to end. But I also think because a lot of people got busted. They got busted trying to cancel people, and it's not cool anymore. So you don't want to be the one that narcs, on your neighbor for doing something stupid. Because what happens is when you start tattling on other people, they start looking at you. Mm-hmm. They start looking into your social media. And they're like, well, you busted this person, but you've done this and this and this and this too. So you need to, by your own rules, you need to get ousted too. Stupid. It's bullshit. It needs to stop. Just fucking stop it. Are we gonna stop this? Mm-hmm. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, and we'll talk later.
Bye.